Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Heinela. We hope you enjoy the show. Mr. Tom Hegna, the one, the only, welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast. We appreciate you tuning in here. Certainly the objective here in the podcast is always to cover one, if not multiple topics, one being helping advisors optimize their practice, which we'll certainly touch on today. That is without a doubt, but also learning from other optimized advisors. And I would certainly classify you as that, good sir.
Well, thank you, Scott. And I'm coming to you live from the Phoenix, Arizona area.
Beautiful. I will get to that. Just hold on to, I've got a question for you. But let me do your proper introduction. As former vice president at New York Life, retired lieutenant colonel, economist, professional speaker, you've presented well over 5,000 times, I would presume all over the world. Is that true?
That is true.
You are author of multiple books. I have had the good fortune of reading and being certainly privy to a couple of them. First and foremost, Paychecks and Playchecks, certainly not the least thereof. Retirement Income Masters, as well as Don't Worry, Retire Happy, among others, correct?
Yeah, I've got two in Canada as well. And then I'm working on books 6 and 7 right now. They should be coming out this year.
So as I transition to that, if memory serves, I do recall a post at some point, and I could be dreaming, tell me if I'm incorrect here, but that retirement was upon you.
Yeah, well, I'm 75% retired. So, for 30 years, I spent 200 nights a year on the road. I'm not doing that anymore. And I did this pre-COVID. So I did a trial retirement back in like 2018, 2019, before COVID. I really liked it. So I said, okay, I'm ready for that. I started moving all my business to the cloud, and then COVID hit. And here I'm a speaker. I didn't do one platform speech that year, and I had my best year ever because I'd already moved to the cloud, and everybody's freaking out. How are we going to have meetings? And I was ready for them. So I could work with 5 or 6 companies a day back then, and instead of just one company a day. So yeah, for me, the virtual is better.
So how are you managing your time from that standpoint, like an optimization standpoint, and managing your practice, managing your balance of retirement? What does that look like now?
Well, now I play golf, probably 4 to 5 days a week. I try to play pickleball a couple days a week. I've got a team of guys that runs, the shipping of books and all that stuff. And we do social media posts. But I'm not doing a lot of speaking. I mean, I am, every week I do some, but I try to have them put it on 1 or 2 days. So like I said, first when I started doing this, they were sprinkling it, have me doing 1 or 2 things on Monday, Tuesday. I said, stop that. Load me up on a Tuesday, load me up on a Thursday, but leave my Monday, Wednesday, Friday alone. So it's kind of been a process to do that. But I'm focused now not on making money. I'm focused on living life.
That's wonderful. Congratulations to you.
Well, you know what I'm kind of proud of is that I didn't just talk the talk. I walked the walk. And everything I've written about in Paychecks and Playchecks and Don't Worry, Retire Happy, I have incorporated into my own planning, and it's allowed me to retire early and be happy.
So here's this. Okay. Wake up, kick ass, repeat.
Yeah.
However you define that, don't let me be the author of your script, and that's proverbial sense, right? But that however you define that, go get it, live your life, optimize your life, and God bless you for that. Okay, enough of that. Sincerely, thank you for taking the time here today. I've got a number of things that I want to talk with you about. Are you open to maybe playing a little bit of a game just for a few minutes?
Sure.
Game where we're going to call it dropping the bomb.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a word or a phrase, and you respond to that. So let's start with one here that's easy. And this stems off of Paychecks and Playchecks, mortality credits.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to say about this?
What the research shows, and I mean, this has been studied by PhDs all over the world, is that the mortality credits are really the secret sauce of guaranteed lifetime income. And it's the reason that income annuities, for example, have much higher payout rates than what you could get from a CD or a bond or, money market or anything else, because those things just pay interest and potentially interest in principal if you want. But an income annuity pays you principal, interest, and mortality credits. That's extra money from the risk pool the older you are and the longer you live. And what the research shows is if you have a retirement portfolio and you do not have any mortality credits in that portfolio is suboptimal. It's less than what it otherwise could or should be. So mortality credits are really the key part of the annuity.
You've done you do a very, very good job of explaining the hedging, if you will, that an insurance company has. That on the one side, you've got life insurance and how that works from an economic and financial standpoint, and then how the longevity, i.e. the annuity side of the pendulum works. So can you just talk a little bit about that just for a moment or two?
Yeah. So if you think about it, only a life insurance company can issue a life insurance policy, and only a life insurance company can issue an annuity. Now, why is that? It's because they're on both sides of the risk. So the risk to an insurance company when they sell a life insurance policy is that that person dies right away. So they buy $1 million term policy, they write out a check for $20, they get hit by a bus, the insurance company's out $1 million. The guy died too soon. Well, the risk when they sell an annuity that somebody lives too long, she's 115 and she won't quit breathing, and every month she's breathing, those checks got to go. Well, because the insurance companies on both sides of the mortality and longevity risk scale, they can neutralize mortality and longevity risk to themselves and to the clients. So let me explain another way. So about 8 or 9 years ago, I spoke in Singapore my first time for the $1 Million Roundtable, and the day before I spoke, I got interviewed by Asia Insurance Review, and they're a big magazine over there. And they said, Tom, we've reviewed your material, and we are very concerned about U.S. life insurance companies that are selling these guaranteed lifetime income annuities. And I said, well, they've been around for 2,000 years. I mean, the Roman Empire issued them. What are you concerned about? And they said, well, we believe medical technology is developing so rapidly that soon people are going to live to be 100, 110, 120, maybe even 130 years of age. And if these companies have to pay guaranteed checks for life, they're all going to go broke. And I just smiled and I said, well, you got it half right. You're right. They will be paying a lot of lifetime income, but guess what? They won't be paying any death claims on all those life insurance policies they wrote. So because an insurance company is on both sides of that risk, if all of a sudden people start dying like with COVID, well, that's bad for life insurance, but that's good for annuities because they might not have to pay so many people. If people start living longer, well, that's good if you own an annuity, but it's bad for life insurance. So, or it's actually good for life insurance and it's bad for the insurance company to sell annuities. So because they're on both sides of the risk, they can neutralize their risk.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Okay, next one here. Every day is a Saturday.
Well, when you retire, every day is Saturday. See, I ask people, what day of the week do you spend the most money? What day of the week you go golf and you go to Home Depot, get your nails done, get your hair done? Well, when you're working, that day is normally Saturday. That's the day you spend the most money. Well, the day you retire, every day is Saturday. Mm-hmm. So you may not need less money. You may need more money in retirement. A lot of people don't think about it.
Yeah, so many retirees right out of the retirement gate find themselves burning through an incredible amount of capital, and we call those what are those? What's the period of time we call those? The go-go years.
The go-go years. So there's the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And research does show that people do tend to spend more money during their go-go years. That makes sense. They're going on cruises. They're traveling. They're going out with their friends. They're going out to eat and to the bar or wherever they spend their money. But then as they get older, most spending goes down except for medical expenses, and those can start to rise in the slow-go and no-go stages.
Which we'll get to. We know what's happening in that market, and talking about healthcare coverage, certainly long-term care planning, and the things thereof. So, okay, third one, and we'll move on. Transition and maybe some economic conversations, which this leads into it. Skimpflation. I saw you post on this recently. I thought it was so fun as a play on the words, but very serious at the same time.
Well, everybody knows what inflation is. That's when prices are going up. But then there's things called shrinkflation and skimpflation, and you've all experienced that. That's when you go to the store and the pack that you used to get 24-pack is now a 16-pack, but it's the same price. See, that's shrink or skimpflation. You used to get 18 eggs for a price, and now the dozen eggs is the same price. Here's a good example. I was in Hawaii, and everything's expensive in Hawaii, and I went to go get a loaf of bread, and they had this loaf of bread where the pieces of bread were about that. They're not much bigger than a cracker, okay? But it was a whole loaf of these things, and it was the same price as a loaf of bread back in the States, but it was just teeny weeny bread. So, I mean, those are all examples of, skimpflation, shrinkflation, where the price didn't go up, but what you got for the price went down.
And you're seeing it a lot in the restaurants, right? I mean, you gave, direct over-the-counter examples of food and cost of food, but go out to the restaurant. I used to get this big juicy burger, and half the plate was French fries, and now maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm down to like 15 French fries, and the burger patty's gotten a little thinner. The add-ons have gotten a little bit less, and I'm paying the same, if not more, at a restaurant now than I was.
Well, think about McDonald's. When they first came out with those combo meals, you got a large fry, large drink, and a Big Mac for like $4.99. Now you get a Big Mac with smaller patties. You get a small fry, small drink. It's an upcharge to upgrade to bigger sizes, and it's now $9.99 or $11. I mean, I can't believe it. I walk into a fast food restaurant just for me, and $12 or $13 later, I go, what the heck happened? This used to be $5 or $6, and now it's like $12, $13, $14. But that's what happens when you do all these other policies.
So moving on to the economic outlook, you did a great summary. Thank you and something you do every year. So for those that are interested, they go to tomhegna.com. On the website, there's a blog. There's great content there, and so through that, we can maybe just summarize if we can compact the 28 minutes that you did in that and just talk about a few specific high-level points and things that we're dealing with today. And maybe even some more current developments that we can kind of unpack. And certainly, adding to or leading into the skimpflation, inflation conversation, I think we definitely should start with that and just unpack that a little bit more as it relates to cost of goods, wages, unemployment, certainly interest rate environment, and what we're seeing and dealing with there.
Yeah, but let's go to the root cause of all this and what the real big problem is. The real big problem is that the country is in debt over $31 trillion. Mm-hmm. Now, there's nothing new. We've been in debt and we've had the debt growing, but it's been growing so rapidly. And here's the problem. When interest rates were 1%, 1% on 31 trillion is 310 billion of interest. And we're a big country. That's a big number, but we can afford 310 billion of interest. But at 5%, it's 1.5 trillion. That's almost double the defense budget just for interest, okay? And then if we know it's not going to stay at 31 trillion, if it goes to 50 trillion and interest rates stay at 5%, that's 2.5 trillion. That would basically wreck the country. And so we have to get that under control. And that's why Chairman Powell has to raise interest rates right now so that he can crush this inflation so that interest rates can come back down. Because if interest rates stay up, I mean, as a country, we're in huge trouble. Now, the problem is the stock market hasn't got it yet. I mean, he said there's going to be pain. We're not thinking about pausing. We're not going to pivot. We're not going to pause. I mean, he's been saying it, but the market keeps saying, oh, he's going to pause. He's going to pivot. No, he's not. I mean, if you go back and study Paul Volcker was the Federal Reserve chairman back in the 1980s. He had to raise interest rates to 20% to break inflation. And what people don't remember is he raised interest rates, and then the economy started slowing down. So he paused. He might have even cut once. Well, then inflation started roaring back, and then he had to keep raising and raising and raising. And if you've noticed, they raised, and then they dropped. They only raised 25 basis points the last time. Well, now the market's going up, and now all this stuff is happening. Oh, the economy's going great. Well, I'm telling you, the better the stock market does, the worse it is for what he has to do. Because that's inflationary. He's going to have to keep raising rates. And if you go to the shadow statistics page, where they use the way that they calculated inflation back in the 1980s, we think it's like 6% right now, and it topped out at 9%. Based on the shadow statistics that they did in the 1980s, it would have been over 16%. And so because they changed the way they calculate inflation. And so I think he's going to have to raise much higher than what the market thinks. The market thinks, 5.5, 5.75. Jamie Dimon has already said it's going to go over 6. I think it could go significantly over 6. I don't know, but I just think the market is out of step with the Federal Reserve right now.
They will continue to go until they break.
Yep, till something
bring
breaks.
Inflation back in line. The other thing, just to kind of can help people rationalize the amount of debt that they're servicing. The Social Security budget is less than $1 trillion per year, correct?
Well, there was a problem with that, but our defense budget at 800 billion. I mean, these are real numbers, and it's a big problem, and they can't just fix it with discretionary spending. Okay, well, what are you going to touch? What are you going to touch? And they don't have to like cut Social Security. They don't have to do that. But what they have to do is fix Social Security and fix Medicare. We might have to pay, right now we pay 6.2% out of our paycheck. It might have to be 7.2 or 7.5. They're going to have to raise some taxes. They're going to have to raise some ages. And the Republicans cannot do it, and the Democrats cannot do it. They have to do it together and say, here is the solution. Because if the Republicans try to do it, the Democrats are going to say they're pushing Granny off the cliff. And if the Democrats try to do it, they're just taxing and spending, so they never get along. The only way they can do it is if they all come out together and say, we have a plan to fix Social Security for the next 100 years. We're going to fix Medicare for the next 35 years or however long. And boom, here it is. Everybody's going to have a little bit of pain, but because of that, everything's going to work for the next 50 years or something. I mean, that's the kind of thing they have to do.
Exactly. It's not one or the other. It's a combination of all the levers that need to be pulled to satisfy the objective.
Yep. Everybody's going to have to be a little unhappy. If everybody's a little unhappy, it's probably a good solution.
That's exactly right. If everyone's pits are sweating just a little bit, then you're probably doing something good.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about. It was very interesting that this conversation regarding zombie companies, and it's a very interesting world we live in when, let's say, lending and money is free, right? Because then the focus from a market's perspective is top line revenue, growth. I'm not really focused on profitability because I can just borrow more, get more, spend more, get more, spend more. But yet when you have interest rates increasing, now the conversation shifts and it becomes about profitability and actually monetizing and operating a business from a profitable standpoint and making wise business decisions. Oh, what an interesting environment we find ourselves in. So talk a little bit about these zombie companies, because I think that's something that's under the surface that is pretty concerning to me.
So like 24% of the Russell 3000, so that's the 3,000 biggest companies in America, 24% of them can't even pay the interest on their debt. And so just like the federal government could handle debt when it was down at 0 or 1%, these companies could handle debt at 0 or 1%. But now when it's 5, 6, 7%, because corporate it's higher than government, all of a sudden they're going, holy, we can't pay that. We can't. So that they're not even earning enough money to pay the interest on their debt. It'd be like if you couldn't pay your credit card payment, so you had another credit card over here with no balance. Okay, I'm going to put this credit card on this one, and I'm going to use this credit card to pay that. Well, you could do that. You could do it for a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, but you can't do that forever. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Get another credit card now? And then the debt just keeps growing, and that's what's happening. And so I don't know what's going to break. I don't know when something's going to break, but Powell basically said he's going to keep raising until stuff breaks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last, before we get into some solutions, is talking a little bit about globally what's going on between China, Russia, Ukraine, all these things.
Well, the Russia-Ukraine thing is terrible. I mean, people just dying needlessly because of one man who wanted to go do something. I mean,
hundreds of thousands.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me, and it's caused all kinds of problems with commodities. Ukraine provides a lot of grain and other things. They have other natural resources. Russia has oil and other natural resources, and so it's caused a big problem in the commodity space. And then you've got China now that's rattling sabers towards Taiwan. They had this China Party Congress last year, and Xi Jinping got reelected for an unprecedented, I think, third or fourth time, and he's basically now going to be a leader for life, I think. Right. He got rid of all the moderates in the party, and now he's surrounded. His entire cabinet are former generals who have hawkish views on Taiwan. And so that kind of concerns me. I've been to Taiwan twice. I've spoken there, and I've asked the people over there, I said, man, aren't you scared? There's China right over there. They could just come over and bomb you. Oh, they talk about this all the time. But if you remember Ukraine, when the Russians were coming around Ukraine, what did the Ukrainians say? Oh, they do this all the time. They're just bluffing. They're not coming in. And so I'm a little concerned about that. That would really destabilize the world. Think of all the supply chains that go through China and Taiwan, and you'd have Japan fighting in there, Korea's fighting in there. You'd have Philippines. You'd have, I mean, that whole Southeast Asia would be inflamed, and that would not be good for the world. It would not be good for the economy. It would not be good for any of us.
So what do we do? What does a retiree do? How do we solve these problems?
We can't really, as individuals, do anything about Russia and Ukraine and China. What we can do is the best we can do with our portfolios. And, I've written several books, Paychecks and Playchecks and Don't Worry, Retire Happy. Those books lay out the steps based on the research, based on the math and science of all the PhDs who studied retirement. Dr. David Babel of Wharton, Dr. Moshe Milevsky of Toronto, Dr. Menachem Yari of Israel, Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. Wade Pfau, Nobel Prize recipients, Dr. William Sharp, Dr. Robert C. Merton. So this stuff is based in math and science, and there is an optimal way to retire. And that's what I write about, and that's what I speak about. I don't sell any financial products whatsoever, but I show people where they should have their money, what types of products, and what's the right mixture. It's not all about investments. It's not all about annuities. It's not all about life insurance. But each of those can play a role in a portfolio. And so that's, and the research is very clear on how to do it the right way. So that's really what I do every day, is try to help people retire the right way.
And that's the thing, I go down kind of memory lane, and you think back 10, 15 years. It wasn't that long ago where it's like, no. We cannot play in the sandbox with the insurance professional. I'm investment guy. And then conversely, right? Insurance professional. Why would you ever have equity? Why would you can't, they're the enemy, all these. And the answer to that is a balanced portfolio is just that, a balanced portfolio. There is a place, there is an allocation to insurance solutions that includes annuities, long-term care insurance, equities, being diversified both domestically and globally. And all of that is a place where using the word optimal is where more and more advisors are embracing, thankfully, and incorporating into their practice and in their clients' portfolios. It's very, very important. I think it's something that just you got to continue speaking about.
Yeah, I just wrote a thing just a couple weeks ago about, because I play golf. I'm a big golfer, and I said, in my golf bag, I got 14 clubs. I got a driver, I got a 3-wood, I got irons, I got wedges, I got a putter. But you know what? I don't use my driver out of the sand trap, and I don't use my putter off the tee, and I don't use my sand wedge when I'm 300 yards away from the green. Each club has a role to play, okay? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, some advisors, they only want putters and wedges or something. But we don't do drivers in this place. We only do putters and wedges. And then you go to another place, driving is the only thing that's important. We don't care about putts. We give all our putts. It'd be stupid. You can't play golf that way, and you can't invest that way. You need to have all the tools. If you need some guaranteed income to cover your basic living expenses, managed money isn't going to do that, okay? And if you need a plan to cover long-term care expenses, if you or your spouse needs long-term care, managed money can't do that, okay? But if you want to grow a portfolio over the long term, that's not where the annuity fits. That's not where life insurance fits. So I own real estate. I own stocks. I own dividend-paying stocks. I own 11 annuities. I have millions of dollars of life insurance. My annual premium is $226,000 a year. And so if people think that life insurance is a cost, that would be ridiculous. See, I know it's not a cost. It's an asset in my portfolio. I'm trying to get as much money into my life insurance as possible so that I can get as much tax-free income in retirement. Because with this debt situation, I can tell you, taxes are going to have to go up. They're going to have to go up a lot. And it's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's a math problem, okay? Mm-hmm. We need a math party. We need a party that can actually add and subtract. And so I'm trying to position my portfolio to have as much tax-free income as possible. I've converted most of my IRAs and 401ks to Roth. Most of those are in income annuities, so they're going to give me tax-free income for the rest of my life. I got a bunch of money in life insurance that gives me tax-free income for the rest of my life. They're also creditor protected in the state of Arizona, so nobody can ever sue that money away from me, which is another concern of retirees, that they work their whole life, they save, and then somebody sues all their money away. Not going to happen to me. And so you've got to, step one is building wealth, but then step two is protecting wealth. And then step three is distributing wealth in the most efficient manner possible. And that's what I write about and speak about.
Yeah, at some point it has to become less about rate of return and what I earn and more about what I actually get to keep. And as simple as that may sound to some, it's just completely neglected and overlooked by many.
Well, yeah, and then people don't understand the mortality credits that we talked about. That's the extra money you get from some of these annuities that you don't get from stocks or bonds or real estate or Bitcoin. And so it's using the right tools in the right place. If you're in the sand trap, use a sand wedge. If you're on a green, use a putter. If you're on the tee box, use a driver or a three-wood. Those are the clubs that you're going to use. It's the same with retirement. Each of these products fit in the right place.
Yeah. I'd like to spend a few minutes and then certainly unpack a little bit about what it is you're specifically doing and how people can tie into your resources. But one of your recent blogs was professionals have coaches, amateurs don't. And I just love that commentary and the feedback that you provided. In many cases, in the literal sense of that description, it's like, I'm a successful advisor, I'm hard charging, I'm type A, I know how to do it best. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And as opposed to allowing yourself to be somewhat accepting of, hey, maybe there are individuals that exist that I can lean into, that I can listen to, that I can gain assets from either a visual, virtual, information standpoint, intellectual standpoint. There's a whole world that I think more and more of us can be open and amenable to.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Pro athletes, they all have coaches.
Mhm.
Tiger Woods was the best golfer in the history of the world. He took more lessons than I ever have. He's hit more balls on the practice range than I have. It takes 10,000 hours to become a master at anything. I spend 10,000 hours presenting and developing content. And so what I try to do is I encourage advisors. I have online training and coaching, but whether you like me or Ed Slott or whoever it is, get some training somewhere. And then every day, just spend, if they even would just watch one video a day, just get in the habit. Over time, you can become exponentially better. Okay. I can help people write millions of dollars of products. Advisors, I can help them, become multimillionaires. I've helped many, many advisors become multimillionaires, but they got to want it. They got to want to do it. And a lot of people say, oh, I want to be wealthy, but they don't want to do what it takes to get there. I see that. I was a manager too. And it was amazing how people all wanted to be rich, but they didn't want to do what it took to get rich.
It's an interesting thing. Personally, I'm curious as you look back on your career, and you have delivered thousands of presentations, and many of them, although you insert current events and timely matters here, timely matters there, and the market and the landscape shifts. How did you really keep your head down and stay focused to, in many cases, delivering a very similar presentation in so many capacities? I guess what I'm asking, did it get boring? And if it did, how did you get in the right mindset? What was your intellect and process there?
If you look at any top producer in any industry, they are consistent in what they do. There are going to be some changes. There are going to be some minor things that change, but they're going to have a consistent message. And what I've tried to do is just be consistent for the last 30 years. I haven't changed that, because you know what? The basics don't change. The sky is blue, the grass is green. That's been the same for, millions of years, and it'll be the same for the next millions of years. It's the same in our business. There is a formula, a strategy to retire optimally. Now, from year to year, certain product features are going to change, but the strategy, the formula doesn't change. And so, that's what I try to do. I just try to keep it consistent. And people say, oh, I've heard Hegna before. Well, that's good, because you know what? The top people have heard me 40 or 50 times.
Right.
One time you're not going to get what I got to say. It takes repetition. I listen to the Kinder Brothers over and over and over and over. I used to listen to Joe Jordan over and over and over and over. And those are some of the people, Zig Ziglar, over and over and over, because you're not going to get it all in one or two listens. You got to, it takes 10,000 hours. And I spent 10,000 hours studying this business, and I would just challenge advisors out there that they're going to have to spend 10,000 hours if they really want to be a master. And when you go to these meetings with Top of the Table or Forum 400 people, they're all got some coaches. You know, they go to Strategic Coach, or they use my stuff, or they use Van Miller stuff, or whoever stuff Dave McKnight. There's plenty of coaches out there, and the top producers use one.
So tell us a little bit about, what exists in the virtual offerings of Tom Hegna's world and tomhegna.com, because there's a lot going on, which is
So where
awesome.
I would start people is on my free stuff. So I have a free YouTube channel. That's all free. I have, I think 7 webinars now at tomhegna.com/webinars. Those are all free, and they're loaded with great content. And at the end of every one of those, you're given an offer to get a deal that we don't even have on our website. It's like a super deal, and every one of them's different. So you kind of got to watch all 7 of them. But if I could recommend a couple of them, there's one on life insurance that if you're struggling with life insurance, watch that one. There's one called the Webinar Method. That's where I can do webinars for you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You got to watch the Webinar Method. I mean, you just send people to a link, and I tell them what I tell them, and I say, I got one ask for you, and that's it. You sit down with the financial advisor that invited you today. And I mean, it's very powerful. There's the Baby Boomer Dilemma movie, where you can find out more at theboomermovie.com, theboomermovie.com. I think the stock market is giving every advisor a gift, a huge gift. And if they would simply use that Baby Boomer Dilemma movie, there are advisors around the country that do 2 or 3 of these a month, and it's revolutionized their business. They're getting appointments with almost every single person. And there's a company called Steep, and they will fill the theater for you. And you only pay for attendees. You don't pay for who doesn't attend. And they're showing, they've got data points, thousands of data points, and they're showing a 7 to 9 time payback. So you spend 1,000, you make 7 to 9,000. You spend 10,000, you make 70 to 90,000. It's an incredible system. I'm going to be doing a thing on it on April 4th. I'm going to have a webinar with the Steep guy, because I just think it's one of the key opportunities that advisors have today to take advantage of. These are the best interest rates we've seen for 15 years in annuities, and the stock market is performing pretty volatile, up to one day, down another, but it's going to go down before it goes back up. I mean, what a gift. And we got advisors not taking advantage of it. It's kind of crazy.
Amen. First time in 14 years that to coincide with the value add proposition and story of why I would ever own an annuity, we now have the sizzle, the rate to go with it.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. It is from that perspective, but inherently the story remains the same. Like you said, the sky is blue. Embrace holistic financial planning that includes all products. Make sure you have a plan. A complete and holistic financial plan. Tom, we really, really appreciate your time today. We thank you for coming on and enlightening our audience. Till next time.
Thank you, Scott.
Cheers. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment or review. Be sure to check us out on social media at Optimized Advisor Podcast. Till next time.